Hello, my name is Brennan Horton, and I'm the instructor here with Del Mar College Veterans Upward Bound. Today we're going to be going through a workshop on Microsoft Word and how to use it to format an essay and do some basic citations. So before we get started, I want to go ahead and pull up a blank Word file and walk you through some of the basic user interface in Word. So just like with Excel, when we create a new file, we just want to click on here, the first option here, blank document. So click on blank document. And then once we get here, we'll see we've got a couple of different things on the screen. So at the very top, we have this blue bar here, this top bar here. We have autosave, save, undo, and redo. And then over here on this side, you can see where it says Brennan Horton. That's where you log in or log out. If I click on that, you can see I've got different accounts there. And I can sign into any of those other accounts. If you're not already logged in, you can log in. That way your files will automatically sync with the cloud. That way if you log in on one computer, save your file and log in on the other computer, it should be there for you to access. Next we have this gray box here. This is known as the ribbon, and within the ribbon there are different tabs. So here we have the Home tab. This is the default tab. We have the Insert tab, Design, Layout, and today we're just going to be looking at the Home and Insert tabs primarily. Within the Home tab, I want to focus on two sections here. We have the Font section here, and we have the Paragraph section here. So if I go down here in the bottom, or the center part, this is called the Document Viewer, and within the Document Viewer, I have a cursor blinking. If I start typing, this is a test sentence. You can see that this this is where we will type our document or our information out. So if I select this sentence by clicking and dragging, or if I hold down Control and press A, it will select all. Then we have selected the sentence, and we can go in here to the font and change various characteristics of that font. So first off here, this drop-down menu here where it says Times New Roman. If we click on that, this Times New Roman, and we can actually change it to a bunch of different texts. So we can look at different font types. But for now, we're just going to leave this as Times New Roman. We can also, here you have this second drop-down. This will change the font size, so we can increase the size of the text. And again, for now, I'll just leave this as 12. Here to the right of the drop down, we have we can increase it one step at a time. So if you don't want to go through the drop down menu, you can just quickly press up or down to increase or decrease the font size. Next, here we can change the case. So for example, here this is written in sentence case, where the first letter is capital and only pronouns would be capitalized after that. We don't have any proper pronouns here, so nothing here is going to be capitalized, like no names or places or anything with a capitalized name. So if we click here, we can go in here, and this is sentence case, like I said, but we can also change this to uppercase. If we want it all in uppercase, there's a couple reasons why we might want that. Or maybe you want to capitalize each word, so maybe for like a title. Okay, we'll go ahead and go back to sentence case for now. Next here, down at the bottom, we can bold, italicize, and underline our text. So if you want to emphasize your text, you can do one of those options. If you want to de-emphasize your text, like you want to remove text from your document, but note that it was originally there, we can do a strike through. So we can say, oh, this was a mistake. We can do strike through. One other thing here is we can do a superscript. So with a superscript, this might be for like if you want to make a note. So here I've put a 1 here, and if I do this one here, x squared here, that makes a superscript. And if we come down to our next line here, let's remove the superscript there, and then we say maybe way down at the end of our document, we have notes. Okay, and then we have 1, this is a note. And this would be like if you've ever gone on a Wikipedia article before, you'll see they've got superscripts, and then you go down to the bottom, and that gives you your sources. This is the same kind of idea here. Let's go ahead and remove some of those spaces, that way I can use this text for part of my next example. Okay. We have a couple of other things here we can do. So, for example, if you've got a large body of text and you want to take some notes, you can highlight them. So if you want to highlight specific words or sentences, you can use the highlight tool for that. And you can click on this drop-down arrow and change the color of the highlight. Also, if you want to emphasize a particular word or set of words as well, you can also change the font color. So here we can change to a variety of colors, but red is going to be the default. So maybe if you make it red and then you bold it and italicize it and underline it, it should really be emphasized. Now next I want to look at this paragraph tab. So here within the paragraph tab, we'll start actually at the bottom left. So here we have alignments. So we have 4 different alignments. We have align left, which is what it is now, but if we click on this next one here, it will center the line that's currently selected. Okay. Now if I want to center the entire text, again I can click and drag and select everything and then click on center, or I can hold down Control and press A, that will select everything, and press center. And we can also center it or align it to the right. And if we use this one here, justify, it will attempt to determine the best way to center or align your text. Next here, we're going to look at spacing. So right now, I have it set to size 1 spacing, but if I click here on 2, what this does is it adds an entire line's worth of space in between each line. So there's an extra empty space here, so if I remove that, you can see the height of this character is the same as the width between each paragraph. Okay, and then one final thing here within the paragraph tab, we can do bullets. So if I do a bullet point like that, and then if I go in here and I press the tab key, that will tab it over. And if we keep going down, you'll see it will switch. This is another note. Okay. And it'll keep switching the, it'll cycle through different bullet types. Okay. We can also do something similar here with numbers. So if I click on the numbers, it goes 1, then lowercase a, then Roman numeral I, and then it keeps going like that. We can also use here, use indents. So if you, instead of using the tab key, we can use indents to move something over. So we can indent or remove an indent using these 2 keys. I want to go ahead and also let you know a couple of extra tricks here within the document viewer section. So here at the bottom of the page, here we have page number. Next we want to look at the insert tab. So if we go to the insert tab here, we've got a couple of options we want to look at. So typically when we have a notes section in our essays or our documents, we want the notes on a separate page. So if we go to the insert, on the left side here we have pages. We want to use the page break feature. If we click on page break, it will create a new page beginning at where the cursor is. Okay. Next, let's look at, we can create a table. If we go in here and click on the table and do the drop down, we can drag our mouse around and it will show us different size tables we can make. And so if we want to make a 10 by 8 table, we can do that, or anything up to that. But if we want a bigger table, let's say we want a 10 by 10, we would go to the Insert Table option, go in here and select 10 columns and 10 rows, and click OK, and that's created a table with 10 columns and 10 rows. Next, if we want to go back to the Insert tab and we want to insert a picture, we go here to Insert Pictures, this device, and let's say I've got my file saved on my desktop. Here I've got my flyer for next week's workshop, and this just as an example. And then finally, if we go to insert, we want to look at one last thing here that'll be helpful for writing essays, is if we want to insert a header. So here in the header and footer section, we have headers, footers, and page numbers. So typically, you would think you would want to use header, but typically what you want to do is you want to use page number. So if we go to page number here, top of page, and then we come over here to, we want it in the top right corner, we go to this plain number 3, that will put a page number at the top of each page. So this is page 1, we scroll down, it automatically fills out page 2. Now, one other thing is we might want to add text in here. Like, for example, if we want our name. So if we double click on that one, it'll pop the header back up. And if we then move the cursor over to the left using the arrow key, you'll see the one is no longer highlighted. If we press space, and then we go ahead and I'll type my own last name, Horton, Horton. So now I've added Horton in front of the one, and then Horton will fill out on each page, and it will still count the 1, 2. The important thing here is that whenever you do this, that you don't start typing while the 1 is highlighted like this, otherwise it will mess up the counting, and it won't continue, it won't automatically count the page numbers for you. Okay. Alright. Next, we want to look at the bottom of the page, or the bottom of the document. Here we have a couple different options. In the bottom left, we have the page count. If we click on this, this actually gives us a quick way to switch between our different pages. So if we have a large document with like 50 pages, we can click on this option, and it'll let us quickly move through the document without having to scroll through everything. Next, we have, if we click on where it says here 10 words, so I'll scroll back up, 10 words. This tells us our page count, our word count, our character count. So for example, if you are required for an essay or something to have 1,000 words, you can keep track of it here. Or maybe sometimes you'll see where you're limited on the number of characters. Like on Twitter, you're limited to a certain number of characters. You could create a draft here on Word, look at the number of characters, and then copy it over. Do something like that. And then here finally on the right side, we have a couple of different options for different ways to view the document viewer. So first we have the focus. If we click on focus, that will make the document full screen. If I press escape, that will exit full screen. And then next we have the read mode. This can make it sometimes easier to read the document. It tries to fit as much of the information on one page as possible. Then next we have here the print layout. This is the default layout most of the time. This is going to show you what a page would look at once you would look like once you printed it out. And then finally you have the web layout, and this is kind of the way it would look in an email. If we go back to print layout again here, you can see here on the right side here we have this zoom scroll bar. We can click and drag this bar up and down to zoom in and out, and it snaps automatically to 100%. You can zoom anywhere from 10 to 500%. Alright, so with all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and look into how we can begin formatting an essay. So the first thing we want to look at is we've got a blank document, and I want to introduce you to the format for an essay in terms of what each paragraph will be. So first off, in an essay, you're going to have an introduction. Then you'll have supporting arguments. So you might have several of these supporting arguments. So let me copy this. So let's say we've got 3 supporting arguments, and then we'll have a conclusion. This is the most basic form for an essay. Is you've got your introduction, and that also includes your thesis statement, which is the argument you're trying to make, and your supporting argument is proof for that thesis, and your conclusion is simply putting everything together and creating a conclusion to support your thesis. Now, before we have our introduction, sometimes we'll have a title page, and then after our conclusion we'll have notes like those ones I showed you before where you have the superscript, and then finally you'll have works cited, or sometimes called references. Okay. Sometimes in some documents you might have an appendix which goes after the works cited, but we're not going to really worry about those. That would only be in really high level essays. Now this is kind of giving you an overview of the form of an essay, but now let's go ahead and look at how we can go about creating citations. So here I've mentioned we have a works cited page or references page. This refers to the things that you're quoting or paraphrasing in your document, and you want to provide a source to where you got your information from. So let's look at how we can create a citation. So if I go ahead and open up my web browser here, I'm going to use Google Chrome here, and I'm going to look up a website called Citation Machine. So here's the first option. Okay, now that we've arrived at citationmachine.net, we want to go ahead and create a citation. So what we can do, we simply click on the left side here. We have this Create Citations button. So we click there. And we want to create a citation for a book that I have here on hand. So let's click on Book. And we're going to use University Calculus. Early Transcendentals. Okay. And if we go ahead and search that, here we have a couple of different options. We want to go with University Calculus Early Transcendental Haas, Weir, Thomas, Pearson 2015. Well, the first and second one are the same, so we can use either one. Okay, we just want to verify once we get there. And then we'll reach this page where unfortunately you cannot continue using an ad blocker. We'll scroll down here and we'll have we'll be able to fill out the rest of the information here. And then we'll select Complete Citation. Okay, great. So you can see here I've created my citation. And I can copy that, and then we'll go back to our document here, and we can paste the citation here just like that. And that will be our citation for this book. Now that we know how to use the basic features in Word, and we know how to the order in which an essay is written, and we know how to create a citation, we can look into formatting an unformatted essay. So now we have here, this is a sample essay that I've found on Purdue University's Online Writing Lab, or OWL. We'll talk about them again a little bit here later on. But this essay is an example of how to create an essay in MLA format. And I've just gone ahead and removed the formatting so that you can follow along and see how you would go about formatting such an essay. So for any kind of university essay, the first thing you usually want to do is we want to select all of the text and make sure it's in the right font. So here we can see in the top left corner, in the font, we have Calibri and we have font size 11. So we want everything to be in Times New Roman. So again, I can click and drag to select the whole document, or I can hold down Control and press A to select everything. And then we'll go here to Calibri, we'll change that to Times New Roman. And we want also for it to be font size 12, so click on 11, go to 12 here. Okay, so now it's all Times New Roman, font size 12. Usually also for these type of documents, you also want it to be double spaced. So if we go back here to the paragraph tab, and we want to change it from 1.15, which is the default, to 2. And then finally, this one's a small detail that your professor might not even notice, but it is technically required for MLA site formatting, which is what we're doing here. So if we go here in the bottom right corner of the paragraph tab, you have this box that says paragraph settings. Click on that, and we'll get this pop up here. And the spacing tab down here, where it says after 6 point, we want to change that to 0 points. And all that's doing here, if I click on that again, so we'll go ahead and select everything. This after here is adding a space after the end of every paragraph. So we want to remove that, since we've already added so much space by double spacing in the first place. Okay. The next thing we want to look at is going to be our paragraph headers. So the first one we would look at would actually be our title here. So the title of this essay is Toward a Recovery of 19th Century Farming Handbooks. And then the author's name is actually not going to be part of that, so we want to separate it. So first we separate the name. Next, If we scroll down here, actually, we can see that we have another header here, population and technological changes. We have historical context. And you'll notice that with each of these, they're underlined. But in MLA format, we don't underline. So if we select all of our text again and we click on the underline button, it will remove the underline from everything. Now, with our essay title for an MLA formatted essay, we want it to be centered, so we're going to select it and then center it. Additionally, with an MLA formatted essay, we want all of this information here to be above the title. So the title will, after the title, you'll begin your essay just like that. But we'll go ahead and have our other information here on the left, on the top, and it's left aligned. We have the author's name first, and the way we write it is first and middle initials, last name. Then after that, if this is for a class, you would have the professor's name next. So we go ahead and cut this here, paste this here, and we'll have the class here, and then finally the date. Alright. Now we want to do some similar kind of formatting with the headers for each of these sections. So here the essay is called Toward a Recovery of 19th Century Farming Handbooks, but this is split up into several different sections. The first section is going to be focusing on historical context. So here if we go ahead and select historical context, unlike the title, we don't want it centered. We want it left aligned like it is, but we do want it to stand out from the rest of the text. So there's a couple different things we can do, but one of the simpler things we can do is we can just make it uppercase. So we can select this text and make it all uppercase. Now, inside the historical context section, there are subsections. And one of these subsections is population and technological changes. So we want to differentiate this from historical context. We don't want this to be uppercase because then that would imply they're at the same level, whereas population and technological changes is part of historical context. So it's just a subsection. So we can do a couple of different things to separate this as well, but again here I'm just going to use italicize. And this is not strictly required by the MLA format to italicize it or caps lock it. You just want to differentiate it from the main title, which is, again, centered. And then we have one more in here as well. If I scroll down here, we have the distribution of new knowledge. If we select this, this is going to be italicized. And then if we scroll down, keep going down here near the bottom, we have conclusion. And our conclusion is going to be a section, so we'll use uppercase for that. Great. So we'll scroll back up to the top. The next thing we want to do here is look at our page headers. So I showed you before on the previous example, if we go to the Insert tab and we go to Header and Footer, we can create a page number. So we're going to do that. And we want it at the top of the page, and we want it in the top right corner. And again, we're going to put the name of the author. So in this case, if we scroll back up, it was Angeli. So we go to the left, so we've not got that one highlighted, Angeli, and we add a space, close the footer, and we can see, or the header and footer, and we can see we've got Angeli, and it's got the number on each page. Great. So next, we want to look at our notes in our works cited. So if we scroll down here, past the body of the essay, we'll see here, this is our conclusion, and after the conclusion we start our notes. I mentioned before we want our notes on its own page, so we'll go to the Insert tab here and create a page break for notes, and we go to the Insert tab here and create a page break for works cited. So now notes and works cited have their own pages. Next, we want to take the notes here, and we want to center the notes. So we go ahead and click notes and center that, and same thing with works cited, we want to center that. Okay. Now notes is formatted fine as it is, but for the works cited, we need to do a little bit of extra formatting. So all of this here is one citation, but that might be kind of hard to see because of the left side. It all looks like it runs together. You kind of have to judge it on the right side, or you do it you do this for everyone as you get it, but what you want to do is here go again to the select your citation, then go to the paragraph tab, and here under indentation we want to select special and then hanging. If we click OK, that will create a hanging indentation, and that allows us to easily tell apart each of our different citations. So I'm going to go ahead and do that for a couple more. Here again, we just go up to the top of the paragraph settings, go to special, and we choose hanging. Now we can actually get to the same menu a little quicker. If we select this information here, then we right click on our mouse, we go down to the paragraph option here, it brings us to that same menu, and we can do the same thing again. And once more, if we go to this next one again, this one is going to be a single line, so it's not going to change anything, but we still need to make it fit the same format, so hanging. And then here we go to this next one here, right click, paragraph, special, hanging, OK. And we would do that for each of these, but we're going to go ahead and stop there, just so you have an idea of how to format your citations. Okay. So next, I'll give a very brief explanation about how you format your in-text citations. This is going to be different in every citation method, but for MLA, the way I'll walk you through the way we do that. So first off, let's find our first citation here. We have a quote, so I'll go ahead and read the sentence. One of these improvements was the development of canals and steamboats, which allowed farmers to, quote, sell what had previously been unsaleable, quote, and resulted in a, quote, substantial increase in a farmer's ability to earn income, quote. Danoff 5. So here we have a quotation. This is a direct quote. Now here inside the quotation we have these brackets. These brackets refer to, these are inserts by the author of this essay to make the sentence flow better. And you can see here we've got a sentence that flows into a quote, flows back into a sentence, and back into a quote. And this is a perfectly valid way to quote something if it allows your sentence to flow better. But here we have Danoff 5. This is the part I want to get to. So Danoff is the author that's being referred to, so the last name of the author, and 5 is the page number because this is from a book. Now if we look at Danoff here, if we scroll back down to our works cited, here at the bottom we can see Danoff is our third citation here, Clarence Danoff, and when it says Danoff 5, it's referring to Change in Agriculture, the Northern United States, from Harvard, and this is on page 5 of that book. Okay, so if we scroll back up, okay, here we have, this was our quote we're looking at before. Let's go ahead and look at another quote. So here we have this next sentence. This increase accompanied the decrease in rural populations as farmers who preferred, or quote, preferred trade, transportation, or tinkering to the tasks of tending to crops and animals found great opportunity in the city. And then we have Danoff 7. So here again you'll note that this quotation makes up a small portion of this sentence, but even though it's only a small portion of the sentence, we still need to actually include the quotation marks, and we still need to cite this source. Now here with this next citation, here we'll see before 1820, the rural community accounted for 80% of consumption of farmers' goods. You'll see that there's no direct quote. There's no quote there. But the author of this essay, Angeli, is paraphrasing this author. And so even when you don't give a direct quote, if you're just paraphrasing or you get your information from a source, you still need to cite that source. And so this was last name Hurt on page 127. Okay. So, in the next line we have something a little different as well. With the improvements in transportation, 25% of farmers' products were sold for commercial gain, and by 1825, farming, quote, became a business rather than a way of life, quote, and then we have 128. So here we don't have an author's name. The reason for that is we're continuing to use Hurt here as our reference, and it's in the same paragraph, so we can just use the page number without the author. Now, this would not be the case if we had started a new paragraph after quoting Hurt here, or if we had quoted Danoff before quoting Hurt again. Okay. Now here we don't have an example of this in this essay, but if we scroll down here to the bottom and we look at this these citations here, and we look at this one here, I'll go ahead and format that so it's a little easier to look at. Special hanging. Okay. So here we have a citation. This is a web citation. Okay. So there's not an author associated with this website. So instead of in your inline citation, instead of having last name of the author and then the page number, you would simply put historical census browser in that parenthesis if you were quoting this as one of your sources. All right. And that's all I wanted to talk about in terms of citation, how we can do our citations and how to format our essay. But I want to go ahead and let you know about a couple of other resources. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create a page break so I can show you. Insert page break. First off, I want to tell you about the Purdue University Online Writing Lab, or OWL, so Online Writing Lab. That's a website that you can find online that has a ton of information about how to properly format an essay. They have examples for MLA and APA, as well as other formatting sources, but most of the time when you're writing an essay, it'll be either MLA or APA. This example here that I'm using today, the MLA, this one that was unformatted and we worked through to format it, this was actually an example from their website, so it's a very good website for that. Also, I want to let you know about the Del Mar College Stone Writing Center. So the Stone Writing Center, before COVID, they have an office on the West Campus, I believe, where you can go in to get help on your essay writing, and they'll provide feedback on anything from how to create a citation to how to word a sentence. So it runs the whole gamut, and if you have questions, you can go there. But right now with COVID, they've moved completely online. So the way that works is if you go to Del Mar College and you look for Stone Writing Center, you'll find their webpage that will link to a Canvas site. So even if you're not a student, you can, or even if you're not currently enrolled in any classes, you can enroll for their Canvas course through their the Del Mar website, and then you can just ask questions through that Canvas site, and they're open 24/7, so somebody should be able to get to you pretty quickly when you have questions. Right. And with that, we'll go ahead and end today's workshop on the Microsoft Word and how to create and format an essay and citations. Thank you, and have a wonderful weekend.